It doesn't matter when you start. It's just that you do get started. Stay tuned. Welcome to this week's edition of NoteSchool TV, episode 262. And folks, we have a treat for you today. The gentleman we have on is probably the first NoteSchool student, and we'll tell his story. He'll tell his story here in just a minute. So why don't I go ahead and bring on, the one and only Mr. Tim Siebelink.
Good morning, Mr. Varnador. How are you,
sir? Good morning, Mr. Siebelink. How are you?
I am fine as frog's hair split four ways, as always.
That sounds good. Yeah. So, Tim, we were just talking ground zero. So how many years has it been since you've been a member of NoteSchool?
2004, so that puts me at 21 years now. Yeah, 21 years.
Isn't that crazy?
That's a spell, my friend. That's a spell. Yeah.
Just remember, we didn't have gray hair back then, and we didn't have any wrinkles.
I probably had more hair too.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Tim, it is so great to have you. Now, tell everybody where you're from. Let's get that out of the way.
I am located in the great state of Raleigh.
The great state of Raleigh. There is no other in Tim's mind. And I talked to somebody from Raleigh, Cary, the other day, Tim, and she said, that's true. Raleigh's the only state in the state of North Carolina. So, it's just it.
That's it. That's all you need to know. The state of
Tim, I would call you a serial entrepreneur. Do you think that would be?
Unfortunately, yes. I'm afraid so.
Tim probably loves to work smarter and harder. I could tell you some stories about Tim, but I'm not going to, right? Not today, But Tim, let's talk about your journey and kind of what it was like, what you were doing when you found NoteSchool 21 years ago, and then let's just bring it forward from there.
I'm not sure what else I was doing at the time. Probably a 10-minute oil change. I think I had at the time 20 some years ago. That was one adventure I've done. I've always liked numbers. That's what I love about notes. It just comes down to the numbers. What is the underlying asset worth? It's much simpler than the actual real estate itself. And I just ran across Eddie about 2004 and listened to him. And I actually went to a small little gathering he had back in the day. It was I think there was 4 of us in the class for all 3 days. Just when we were really, NoteSchool was really getting going, and I just jumped in. It just resonated with me.
Yeah. Tim, it is funny how all of that basically works and how it came together and what all you've done and how, what it looks like. So during that period of time, you've bought houses, right? And you've renovated houses and you've had some rentals, I think, haven't you?
Unfortunately, still have some. Yep.
Yeah, still have some. You've been in the furniture business. You had a big business with freight forwarding, and so you've done a lot of stuff. And but how does the note space on the note side of this? How does that compare as far as time? When you trade time for money, does the note space kind of work out better there than other things?
Absolutely. Well, I really think that, and have grown into this. The paper is so passive. Once you have created the paper or originated it, if that's what you choose to do, or if you go out and purchase it, it's boring. I mean, it just shows up in your account every month as long as the borrowers are paying as agreed. So if you're a workaholic like me, it can get kind of boring just doing the paper, but it's such a great way to put your assets out there, your dry capital. It's fairly safe. It builds long-term wealth for both you and your family, your kids and your grandkids. And well, you already know the story. I fell in love with paper a long time ago.
And guys, when he says it's boring for Tim, and it does get boring. It's gotten boring for me in the sense that, you check your account once a month and make sure that your note payments are coming in from your borrowers, and you don't even really have to deal with them because you have it serviced by a professional servicer, and you just look at your account and say, okay, there's the payment, there's that payment. And so some people are looking for boring though, Tim.
But that's what I mean when I say boring. There's no being the workaholic that I am, and I grew up on a dairy farm. I like physical work, right? So a note to me, when it pays as agreed, there's really nothing to do. Now, the note business in itself is a great energetic business because most of the time, you have the basics of generating or originating a note or purchasing a note, but they're all different. They all have their little twist and scheme to them. And that was really what makes it interesting. That's just, it's fun. It's a fun business to play with.
We've got a common friend that he always says he likes to get in there and mark it up when he's looking at documents. And it's like going down, especially when you've got a note that the borrower's been paying on for 5 or 6 years, and you see their journey in paper, not really in the house, but you see it in the paper and see how, who owned it here and then who owned the paper here and so on. And it has been, it's always the discovery of what you're looking at. So how has the note business changed, since 2005? I mean, back then in 2005, I always say that if you could fog a mirror or if you had a pulse, you could get a loan, and then it's like all heck broke loose, right?
Yep. Yeah. When we first got into it, the non-performing really wasn't we never really even talked about it. I mean, there's always non-performing. I mean, there will always, even a good market, bad market, there's always non-performing. So when I first got into it, we were doing a lot of postcards, looking for people that had generated their own seller financing, trying to talk to hedge funds, because at the time, a lot of the hedge funds wouldn't deal with one-offs like we deal with today. There wasn't the online platforms that there is today. It was a really 100,000% different than it is today. And then when the 08, 09 crashed, and when the non-performing started to come through in 10, 11, and 12, that was a whole different market all to itself too. And that was a great market for 3 or 4 good years there. We did a lot. We did a lot with non-performing. Yeah.
Well, Tim, in between, when you were talking about it, wasn't a thing on performing in 05, and it wasn't between, I think it was 1986 and 2006. The delinquency rate on single family first mortgages in the United States was less than 1%.
Yeah.
And then, oh my God, you get there at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And what most people don't know, Tim, is that it got as high as up 20%.
It was crazy, Joe. It was crazy.
There was millions. There was 10 million non-performing loans in the system, right?
Yeah, that was quite the thing. Yeah.
So we saw all of that happen in color, and then it just kind of standardized again. And so today, we're looking at a market that, there's a lot of notes being created every year. Fred and Tracy Rui from noteinvestor.com, they do their note count, what's created every year. And for 2024, there was right at 100,000 new seller finance notes created in 2024. And those are the ones we can count, Tim, because we know some of them aren't recorded and some are, done differently and so on. but it's still a big viable business. And one of the things that we're doing at NoteSchool is working with what Eddie Speed calls burnt, not B-U-R-N-T, not
Yeah.
burned, but burnout landlords. And that's really a thing, right? It's changing from being a landlord to being the bank, and you get to keep twice as much money every month, right?
Yeah, with 10 times less headache, right? Because now your active landlord business becomes boring, because now all you're doing is you're collecting your monthly mortgage payment, and the servicer collects it on your behalf.
That's it.
So you still have the asset as the collateral.
Mm-hmm.
You technically don't own it because you sold it, but the asset is the underlying collateral for that note. And you just get to collect the payment every month. And again, like you said, it's usually double the income of what you can get for rent when you take out the taxes, the insurance, the maintenance, the vacancy. I'm probably down to 9 or 10 rentals, but the ones I have left are all the easy ones. The tenants have been there for
Right.
7, 8 years, and there's just, I very seldom hear from them. Call them at Christmas. How you doing? Everything going okay? Oh yeah, this broke, but I fixed it. Thank you. And it's those are the ones I have left. And when they change, it's going straight to a seller finance deal.
Tim, Eddie sent me I think it was a Facebook post yesterday, and it was somebody was saying that instead of them going for their rentals, the top of the market rent, they have that a little bit below, right? And it makes people feel like they've got a good deal, right? So they take care of things better. But then obviously, the best you can do is becoming the bank. And you and I know that, and you've proven that over and over and over and over through the years. So, Tim, we were talking about a lady that you became tell us a little bit about the story we were talking about a little bit earlier about how you got this note and so on, and then how it's kind of played out over a period of 5 or 6, 7 years.
Yeah, this is a note that back in the day, again, this is when the non-performing paper was everywhere. I worked with investors, just they wanted to learn how, right? So it's like, I don't want anything, but I'll teach you. That way you can go on and do your own. And I did that with a lot of people. Just here, I've got the knowledge. I don't mind sharing it. Mm-hmm. Individuals I knew. And this was a note that I helped a lady purchase. And it was in Cook County, which is outside Chicago, which is a mm-hmm. county a lot of people don't like to deal in. And mm-hmm. if I didn't have the history behind this note, I probably would have turned it down too, simply because of the location. But we purchased this note as a non-performing note, and it took us 2 years to get it performing because mm-hmm. it got caught in the legal system there, and it's just not a lender-friendly legal system. And it drug on and drug on. But we finally got it reperforming, and this was in an IRA for this lady. She had already retired, and so this was in her IRA, and she was going to keep it long term. And the individual that we took care of and got it reperforming, they've made their payment on time. Actually, before it's an ACH payment. When you start talking about you were just talking about looking through the history.
No more mailbox money. It's just called wire money, right? Yep. You don't have to go to the mailbox even, right?
Yeah. So that she pays it like 3 days before the first of every month. It just hits, and of course, being third party service, I had the history. Well, this note has been going on now for 7 years. And the lady that I helped get this in her IRA, she has come down with some more pretty major health issues. Mm-hmm. And she's looking to liquidate all of her assets, the real estate, the notes, et cetera, et cetera. So I got a call out of the blue and said, since you helped me, would you like to purchase it? I know I'm not going to get full value because I understood how I bought it. And you taught me that, it's always bought at a discount, et cetera, et cetera. And most of the paper I get today comes to me from seeds that I set out years and years ago, just trying to talk to people, help people. And I'm starting to reap some of the harvest of that now. But that's a note I just took on maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago.
Right. So Tim, the lady that the person that owned the house, they had gotten in some trouble, right? And they had gotten behind. So then it got into the whole legal system, and it was owned by this bank or whatever it was. Anyway, you helped buy. And so, but then you got the loan modified for this lady. And so she makes her payments on time every month for 7 years.
Yes.
And now the original borrower or the original note owner, right? The lady that you helped, she's trying to liquidate because of some, like you said, health problems. And it's a perfect pay history, right? So you're like, sure, I'll buy that at,
Yes.
a 25% discount, right?
Yep. Yeah, it worked out very, very well. I mean, and the whole backstory, the reason they were behind and the reason we couldn't do a mod, it was almost 2 years to the day we bought the note, and we modified it almost identical to what we originally offered her.
Right.
It was her and her husband, and he was the problem. And when they finally divorced, problem solved. I mean, that was, of course, you don't know that as you're going
Right.
through the whole process, but once they separated, she told us, I wanted to do this 2 years ago, but he wouldn't let me. I wanted to keep the house.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just one of the stories, and it worked out well. It took us a while to get the deal done. And then lo and behold, 6, 7 years later, it falls back in my lap. And it'd be a great one for my retirement because she doesn't want to move. I know the whole backstory from years ago because I was the one beating my head against the wall trying to get them to redo it. And yeah, it's funny how it's a big circle, right? How it loops back to you.
It really is, Tim. It's a smaller world than people really realize. And whether you say a niche or a niche business, it really is. And but it's a great business to be in. So, Tim, let's talk about Note Expo is coming up here, November 7th and 8th. And I know you're not going to be able to make it this year, but you've been to a lot. This is the 14th year that NoteSchool or Note Expo has been on. Tell us just some of the highlights from years past that you've seen and what these folks can expect.
Well, I can tell you how much I liked Note Expo. It was the third year, I believe, I decided to get married.
Right. Yes, I remember that. Yep.
That falls with Note Expo.
Yep.
So I went to the one-day event for the NoteSchool, and then went to the first day for Note Expo. That was Friday. I took a late flight out Friday night to get my butt back home because I was getting married on Saturday.
I remember that.
How much do I like Note Expo? I missed my reception dinner. I missed everything else because I was in Texas instead of here in the great state of Raleigh. But I did make it home for my wedding. I did get married on Saturday. No, and that is a true story. But all jokes aside, NoteSchool, it's the networking, or Note Expo, I'm sorry, the networking is phenomenal. If you're experienced or if you're brand new with a lot of questions, it is amazing. The people that NoteSchool, Joe and you and Eddie bring up on stage, the knowledge, the depth there is crazy, and you got to go.
It's a good time, right?
Yep. If you're looking to get into paper, I always recommend NoteX. Even the people that I talk to here, they always ask, "Well, you've been in it so long, et cetera, et cetera. I've never done a note." I always say, keep November open, NoteSchool or Note Expo.
Yeah. And not only the networking, and then the people, the vendors that, you work with every day are there, and they're receptive, and they answer your questions, from servicers to insurance company, the companies that we work with, the, law firm, all of the different pieces are there, and you get to kind of put all that together, and you really see that it's a real business, right?
Right. And I found over the years that most people, a lot of the seasoned investors, they're open to talking to you. If you're new, only been in it a couple of years, 5 years, as a rule of thumb, most of them are very open. They'll sit down, and if you have a question, you ask, and they go, "Have you tried this? Or have you thought about that? Or I've had this in my own experiences," or, "Hey, go talk to this person because I know they went through it." That is one thing I find very valuable with Note Expo, is just people are willing to share, and it
And
really.
Tim, we have a lot of time built in there for people to do that, whether it's at a breakfast or at a lunch or at the ice cream social on Friday afternoon or the cocktail reception on Friday evening, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's true. I've been to a few others, the other main ones that you hear about all the time, but Note Expo always is the cream of the crop.
So Tim, if you had any words of wisdom for some of our viewers out there that may think, well, should I try out? Should I check out NoteSchool? Should I do this? Should I go to a 2-day class? Should I do any of that? What would you say to them?
I would say yes. And the reason being, with me being with NoteSchool for so long, NoteSchool changes with the times, right? When I first got into it, we were doing the postcards and we were trying to reach out to hedge funds because hedge funds wouldn't deal with people like us. And NoteSchool was helping us through the process. Then we went to the next part where it was all non-performing paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then NoteSchool was there helping us with the non-performing. And then after that, we went back to the performing and sub-performing. And now we're really working with the burned out landlords, how to create paper. After we got done with the non-performing, I went to Ohio, as you know, and I was buying properties, rehabbing them and selling them with seller financing, doing all my own origination. And that was just another process. It was another step in the stone. So NoteSchool constantly changes. So no matter what cycle we're in today, I've been doing it a long time, obviously, but it's amazing, and it really has changed the way I think about retirement.
Yes, absolutely. And we're one of the things that we're going to talk about at Note Expo this year too is kind of the return, not to the extent that it was back in the day, right, with non-performing. I know we've talked about this today, but we're seeing foreclosures the courts are finally catching up, and we don't want to see people lose their homes, but
right.
I think Eddie and I talked about this. Last week was our 260th episode, and which means Eddie and I have been doing NoteSchool TV for 5 years, not missed a week, Tim. So we kind of did a recap of a trip down memory lane, and we're seeing that start to come back around. And there's about 1 million loans out there that the average borrower is about 1,600 days delinquent now. And when we were talking, and we've done a lot of research on that, and one of the things that came out of that was that you weren't doing the borrowers any favors by them still kind of living there and not taking action, because when it's in that process and you've got the not excess, the accelerated interest rate, when they're non-performing, any of the equity that they could have sold it for 3 or 4 years ago is being wiped out by the interest that's building up every day on those non-performing assets. So it's a thing.
Yeah, but I mean, when you go back to say you don't want to see people lose their houses, if you can buy that non-performing asset at a big enough discount, and if the borrowers now do have a stable job again, or for whatever reason they couldn't make their payments, you can save that. You can save that house for them. I mean, obviously you have to vet them. Most of the ones that we purchased after the big 08-09 fiasco, I would say 75% of the people that hadn't paid in 3 or 4 years, it was crazy. They hadn't paid in 48 months. And they were still living in the house. We actually saved the house for them because now they could afford it, and we vetted them. And I would look up. Well, I just finishing taxes, of course, because October 15th was here.
Well, I did that this year too, Tim. So I understand.
I still have paper paying from then because they just, and they're in there. I saved that. They were 4 years behind, but we saved them, and they're still there, and they're still making their payments today.
And Tim, it occurs to me that sometimes, especially back then, most of them would have, bad things happen to good people all the time, right? Number one. But number two, there was nobody going after them to pay, so they didn't know what to do.
Right. Yep.
And so sometimes it was just people that just didn't want to pay, but sometimes it was good people that they got caught up in something and they didn't know how to get out of it. So, right. Tim, let's finish up with this. Tell me your why, brother.
My why is going to be my kids, of course, and one day, they better hurry up. I'm getting old. I'm going to have grandbabies.
So you haven't got no grandbaby yet?
No. Nope.
We have our first. She is 2.5 years old now, and Tim, it's freaking amazing.
Oh, I know. I can't wait. I mentioned something a couple weeks ago to one of my boys. I said, "When are your wife? It's about time." Dad, if you want a grandbaby, go get another dog. It's like, dog. But
you're exactly right. Folks, Tim he exemplifies what we see out there every day in the business, and he's a go-giver, always trying to help somebody out. I could tell you many, many, many stories about Tim and how he's helped folks out. And that's what it's really, at the end of the day, it's about, your family and a legacy and putting that on. So Tim, I truly appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship, and I do look forward to seeing you as soon as we can. So
sorry I'm missing it this year, but something
I know.
Up and, just couldn't
well,
hit it.
I'll tell you this. So it's always the same time. My wife's birthday is November 7th, right? So I've missed her birthday. So she's coming this year. So I'm sorry you won't get to meet her. She's a pistol. And so she's going to come this year so she can, so we can be together on her birthday. So
yeah, our wedding anniversary is on the 6th. So
that's it.
She's used to me being down there for our wedding, but or for the anniversary. I did make the wedding.
Got it. Yep, for sure. Well, apparently, right. Tim, thanks so much. And folks, that'll wrap us up for today. We appreciate you being here, and we will see you next week, same place, same time. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.